You know, there are so many wonderful things about Italy. The food, fashion, architecture, beautiful people, and fantastic cars. But for me, Italy is all about coffee and cafes. Whether it's a cappuccino at breakfast or an espresso in the afternoon, this wonderful brew seems to fuel the entire country and drive the people that live here. The great cafes of Italy are treasures. They allow us to experience some of the historical and stylish things about Italy, and they also show us why the rest of the world has such a romance with Italian culture. My name is Paul Curry, and I have the best job in the world. I am on a coffee lover's journey through Italy to places such as Venice, Milan, Bologna, Treviso and Turin to celebrate the Great Italian Cafe. One of the all-time great destinations for the world traveller is the ancient city of Venice. Nearly 400 years ago, coffee was introduced to Italy via this wonderful city, which has ultimately led to the current explosion of coffee consumption through bars, cafes and in the home. This waterlogged city is Italy at its seductive best. With history and culture seeping from the decaying buildings, and gondolas gliding through the canals. Everywhere you go, the smell of freshly ground coffee lingers. This lagoon in the northeast of Italy served as home for hunters and fishermen 2,000 years ago, but history would see it become one of the most vital trading ports in the ancient world. Merchants from the Ottoman Empire brought their dark and mysterious coffee beans here to Italy and taught the locals how to roast this favourite drink from the Middle East. And the love affair between coffee and Italy began right here in Venice. In 1638, those very first beans were imported from Egypt, and they came surrounded by myth. Rumour had it that consumption might lead to lascivious behaviour in women and a loss of virility in men. In conservative Venice, it was not until almost a century later that the very first coffee shop opened, soon to be followed by hundreds more. For a cafe owner and coffee lover like myself, this is a perfect place to begin a journey to discover the great Italian cafes and explore the unique relationship that the Italians share with their coffee. This is Piazza San Marco, right in the centre of Venice, and we're here to visit the oldest cafe in Italy, Cafe Florian.
We have about 33 kinds of coffees. For example, you have cafe espresso, or cafe American coffee, or cappuccino, cafe latte, latte macchiato, Irish coffee, cafe macchiato. There is about, with one coffee we can make 33 kinds of coffees.
This 300-year-old temple to the coffee gods was created by Floriano Francesconi and originally named Venice the Triumphant. Over time, the cafe became better known after its owner, Floriano, and ultimately became the Cafe Florian. A centre for Venetian culture and fine coffee, it was here that patrons discussed the latest in fashion and politics. Eventually, the Florian attracted society's who's who, including European authors, politicians, royalty, and Hollywood's finest.
For example, Julia Roberts
Julia Roberts
is fine. She's funny.
Even the famous Casanova was a visitor to Florian, but the cafe he visited was quite plain, with much of the current decor added in 1858. Elegant wood panelling, mirrors, chandeliers and mosaics all add to the beauty and charm of this unique cafe. Originally, coffee was served in crude pottery goblets and enamelled glassware, but in 1723, fine porcelain and silver trays were introduced, adding yet more charm to the coffee drinking ritual. Venetian porcelain was perfected over the next century and is considered amongst the finest ever produced. At Florian's doorstep, you will find the Basilica di San Marco, an amazing structure that encompasses Byzantine, Gothic Romanesque, and Renaissance architecture. It's easy to see why this is the premier drawcard for tourists visiting Venice.
This is a few of our most coffee that we have. This is Venetian coffee. It's with coffee, liquor of coffee and whipped cream. And this one is Café dell'Imperatore. It's with eggnog, coffee and cream. This is the famous cappuccino. And this one is the famous espresso. This one is our specialty is coffee, chocolate and cream. And this one is hot shot. It's Galliano, coffee and cream. So we hope to see you and enjoy your coffees in the Café Florian.
Venice's first newspaper was distributed at Florian. This Gazette of Venice allowed locals to advertise property and wares for sale, and also carried the latest in social comment. The coffee served at Florian is a mix of 90% Arabica and 10% Robusta, and is blended and roasted in Tuscany at a company partly owned by Florian. This cafe is a true work of art, and every wall and surface has been beautifully decorated, a perfect backdrop for a sobering cup of black gold.
And this is your cappuccino.
It took more than 200 years for the Italians to invent espresso coffee, which can only be achieved with an espresso coffee machine.
This machine was made in 1933, but the first one was from 92. So we had this kind of machines in Italy until 1948. Then the piston machine, machine lever, and it was the first machine that started to have espresso with a cream on top. The third revolutionary machine was 1961, which is an automatic brewing system machine. Till the fully automatic machines we have nowadays, which use the automatic brewing system, and those are the fully automatic system for having espresso at home. And with this machine you have an espresso like you can have at the bar.
Espresso was the new way to take coffee. Firstly, it was fast, with patrons preferring to drink standing up at the bar instead of sitting. Suddenly, you could get your caffeine fix quickly and without fuss in only a few minutes. This was an instant hit of caffeine and an instant hit with the patrons, a motivator for waking up and a quick fix for the working class ready to face the day. It wasn't until the early 21st century that domestic coffee machines were able to automate the skills of a barista and make cafe-quality espresso for people at home to enjoy. Interestingly, Veneto is also home to DeLonghi, a company that's now making a range of cutting-edge domestic machines.
The Venetians were very well-known travelers across the world towards the Indies, the West Indies, and they were very good at trading raw materials coming from Eastern countries, and they enjoyed the pleasure of coffees coming from abroad and introduced them in Italy. And then Italians probably they added some ideas on how to make coffee, and that's the way espresso was born across the years. I think that there's a lot of tradition in Italy. There are many ways that coffee can be enjoyed in Italy. Now there is a trend of exchange of culture. So you see a lot of people are enjoying espresso now in the States or in Japan, and of course in Australia and New Zealand. And sometime in Italy people are starting enjoying maybe German coffee or lighter type of coffee. So it's a trend of exchange of cultures, which I think is very interesting.
This development of high-tech domestic machines has helped coffee become the second most traded commodity after oil. short stroll from St Mark's Square brings you to another Venetian coffee icon, the Hotel Danieli, which has been wowing guests with its breathtaking interior, one you might recognise from the latest James Bond film.
The Hotel Danieli is really in a prime location, as you can see. I mean, it's in the middle of the Bacino di San Marco, which is the heart of Venice. The main building, the central building, was built at the end of 14th century. We are in their list of the best 10 places for coffee since the very beginning of this.
Venice, during the history, Venice is being the commercial door, who connect the Middle East to Europe. The Ottomans being at the door of Vienna in 17th centuries, and when they escape, they leave this big sack of green beans, nobody know that, and they start to put with the water and, boiled water. And in the 18th century in Venice, there was more than 100 coffee shops. Venice has been the